Alright, let's start from the beginning. Let's go ahead and make a copy of our template for planning a business, and it will make a copy that goes directly into our drive. And first, let's read the instructions. Edit the purple cells with information data, edit the blue cells with relevant formulas, do not edit any white cells, and then we'll change the formatting as necessary or desired. And lastly, click the tabs at the bottom of the window to navigate tasks. These tabs are down here. So let's start with brainstorming. We need to determine what kind of business we are going to plan for. Put that here into row 2. So restaurant business sounds good. And let's go ahead and list out different kinds of expenses and approximate costs. They can be real or hypothetical. So let's just list out the expenses first, and then we'll add some costs. So advertising, obviously if we're going to start a restaurant we want to advertise, we might have to do a remodel. We're going to need some cooking equipment. Can't have a restaurant without cooking equipment, or definitely can't have a restaurant without food and beverages. Might also need to get some inspections done. That's going to cost some money. Inspection fees. Going to need insurance for the building. Let's see, permits and licenses. Going to need some publicity. It's a little different than advertising, but similar. Going to have to pay the rent or a lease. And then let's go ahead and just add some values here. We'll say that that's going to be $1,300 a month, maybe $7,000, $8,000. Just going to pick at some fairly random numbers, but within ballpark reason. $3,000, $500, $2,000, $5,000. Say $3,000, and call that good for now. Next up, let's categorize each expense by its frequency, indicate whether it's monthly or a base cost. So is this something we'd pay every month or just once at the very beginning to get our whole thing started up? So let's see, advertising, probably want to do that monthly. Building remodel, that's going to be a one-time deal. Cooking equipment, one-time deal. Food and beverages, going to have to restock, so monthly. Inspection fees, that's going to be a base cost. Once past inspection, we shouldn't have to pay that anymore. Permits or insurance, that's going to be a monthly thing. Permits and licenses, again, that's going to be a base cost. Publicity, that's just to get things generated at the beginning. So base, rent, and lease, that's going to be paid monthly. So now we've got a good list here. So we can move on to step 4. Select your data by clicking and dragging from A4 to C17. So that's going to be A4 all the way to C17. We're going to click data up here, sort range, which is right there. Click column C, and we're going to go ahead and sort it. So it just automatically sorts that there. And then we can delete these instructions. Delete that row, and we can resize as we see fit. You don't have to, but you can. Next up, so we're going to go to list of expenses. So now what we can do is we can take all of these base costs and we can actually paste it into here. Oops, I actually don't need that column. And then same thing over here with all our monthlies. Makes it nice and easy to copy or paste it in here. And now, forgot about formatting. Let's go back. I want this column, since these are all dollars, we're going to just change it to dollars. Same thing here. We want these columns to be currency, so we're going to change that. So now it displays as currency. And there we go. So our next step is to use the equals sum formula. So I'm going to say equals sum. And it now prompts me for what range do we want to sum this up. Well, we're going to start with column B, row 6, so B6, and we're going to go to the bottom of column B. And there we go. We can see that that's $19,800. Let's go ahead and copy that, and we can paste that formula over here, and it'll automatically adjust for the new location. Now what's really nice about this is it might just so happen that I've come back later and go, oh, that's right, there's a few more things that I needed to add to my list. So if I come over here and I start adding a few more things onto my list, for example, maybe I recognize, oh, I'm going to have a security deposit. I'm going to need some supplies. I'm going to need tables. Oh, how can you have a restaurant without tables and chairs, etc. Utilities and wages. Let's go ahead and add those costs. So starting with security deposit, we'll say that's $6,000. Notice how now it displays as in dollars rather than as a number. $400 of miscellaneous supplies. $4,000 for tables and chairs. Utilities, probably about $1,200 a month. And then wages, got to pay my workers. That's going to be a very big expense. Let's go over here. Security deposit, that's going to be a base. Supplies, that's going to be monthly, like napkins, cleaning supplies, etc. This is going to be a base cost, and then monthly and monthly. So we can go ahead and sort this again. Go data, sort range, column C, sort, and now what I can do is I can copy this information, paste it over here, and notice how this formula automatically updated the total cost. And then I can do the same thing for my monthly costs. Let's just replace the whole thing, and notice how the cost updates automatically. So now that I look at it, it's formatted, looks the way I want it, got it displaying in dollars. We can go ahead and delete this row and move on to the next task. Here we go. So now it says list the month number in the independent variable column. So this is our independent variable x, and it's just going to be month 1, month 2, let's start with 0. Before we even start, this restaurant's going to cost us money. So month 1, 2, 3, and then rather than having to type each one of those down, we can just select a few, and spreadsheets can work out the pattern there and automatically fill in. We're going to leave this last one blank because we're going to pick a random number later. So next up, input a formula in the dependent variable column. That's this one here, column B. This formula should include reference cells from the independent variable column in order to calculate the total cost after X number of months. So we're going to use this formula. There's a reason why I call these the month and base cost. It's sort of like M times X number of months plus B. So we see that this is our M value. So let's go ahead and go in here. We're going to say we're going to use a formula equal, so M, which is our 3,000, and when you put a number into a formula, it needs to be just a number, times X, this is our X value, plus, and I need to go back, what was our B value? 35,000. And there we go. So as one might expect, since we haven't started our restaurant yet, we know that we have base cost of $35,000. It's only going to cost $35,000. Now that we have this formula, what's really nice is we can just copy it, Command C, highlight everything down, and paste that formula in there. You'll notice down here at the end it's only 3,500, but there's a reason for that because we don't have a number here, so it's basically treating that as a 0. But before we move on, let's go ahead and turn that all into dollars, display as currency, and now we can model this out for any month we want in this last column. So let's say after 3 years, 36 months, this restaurant business is going to cost well over $1 million. After 3.5 years, almost $1.5 million. So at this point, we've gone ahead and formatted the independent variable column to display the numbers as dollars. I just realized there's a typo there. One thing to note about spreadsheets is it's not particularly good when it comes to spell check, but other than that, super solid. Anyway, so next up, we want to try and create a graph. But before we do that, I'm going to show the optional approach to doing this. This is kind of nice. So same thing, we're going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to go ahead and select those, drag that all the way down. The reason why I want to do this optional one is sometimes we might think of, as we did earlier, we might think of some more things to put in here where we can add a few more rows. That's going to give us some more expenses, which is going to change these costs. Or maybe we realize that these prices aren't accurate, we fix those, and we don't want to have to go back and redo all that math, so we want to update automatically. We can do the same thing here. We can use a reference cell by saying this is going to be equal to whatever is in that cell times this cell plus whatever is in that cell. So now we can just paste that all the way on. Whoops, I almost forgot. This is why this is the advanced option. In order for this to not, so what happened there, as you saw as it went through, is it's getting smaller. And the reason why is because if you look at these numbers here, it's changing the reference cell. It's updating each time I paste it down. So I do not want this one to change. I always want it to be in B4, and I always want this one to be in E4. But this one, I do want to adjust so that way as I move down, it references whatever value of X is next to this formula. So now when I paste it through, you'll see it gets bigger and bigger. And again, we can do 42. So we enter that. Now here's why that is more powerful. If we go back here and say we recognize that if we add some more values, for example, we'll just put some random ones just to demonstrate this. So 2700, 13,000, 4900. That should do enough to show that now we've got these new values here. You'll notice that nothing changed here. Our starting value is still 35,000, but with our new formula that references that, everything updates to incorporate these new values. So our initial base cost went from 35 to 39,000, and now we see that reflected here. So that's the advantage of doing that. Anyway, so now we can go ahead and delete that one. If you want, you could do this approach and then make your graph from here. I'm going to go back to the original. So next thing we want to do is we want to make a graph. So we're going to say insert chart. And here we go. We are going to want to make this one not a line chart, but actually what we want is a scatter plot. And so you can see here's the dots that represent each of those XY coordinates, and then one at 42 months. And next up, let's go ahead and move this actually to its own sheet. That'll make it a little easier to work with. Plus then we can see the instructions that are behind it. So move to own sheet, and we can go ahead and edit, go under customize, let's go into series, scroll down, say trend line, scroll down, use equation, include r squared, and now you can see the equation there is 33,400x plus 35,000, and obviously because everything is linear here, we're going to get an r squared of exactly 1. We can go up here to chart and axis titles. We can change the title. It's going to be cost of running a restaurant. If we want, we can center that. We can change the color. If we want, we can make that nice and bold. And we'll go through and change some of the other things as well. So that's chart title, so we can change the vertical axis. So instead of it being that equation that it defaulted to, we can just say this is cost in USD. We can change the horizontal axis to be time in months. If you want, you can change the color as well, or some other parts of the formatting. But now we got a nice little graph that shows us the linear cost of our restaurant with each month. So this tells us how much money we need to be making at least by 42 months out if we want to still be in business. Again, we can go back here, we can change this number, change this, maybe we don't want to see at 42 months, maybe we want to see at 30 months. So it's going to bring that down to 1,000,000. When we go back to our chart, to our graph, you see it's not quite as spread out because we're not going as far to the right. So we can go ahead and rename this and say call it the cost graph. And that is all. Go ahead and delete the last set of instructions, and you are done. Congratulations.